Hi everyone, this is Mitch with Steve Monahan here at the Doghouse with Week 4 NFL preview show. Of course, we're going to preview every NFL game on the card. Of course, I'm going to go over these games again on Sunday. Steve will be back. Might have a change of opinion. Guys get arrested, guys get cut, guys get injured, guys piss people off, and some guys, if your name is Jalen Ramsey, all of a sudden your back starts tweaking. So, Steve, welcome back to the Doghouse. It's your third week of NFL. You only missed week 1, and we've learned a lot over recent weeks. How you seeing the NFL shaping up so far?
How you doing? Glad to be back. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So, week 2, week 3, we saw a lot of. We're starting to see a lot of carryover, starting to separate the contenders versus the pretenders. I mean, very few teams have ever made the playoffs after going 0-3 in the first 3 games, but we've seen it before. We've also seen teams go 3-0 and not make the playoffs. Any team out there that looks like to be a pretender or a team that's maybe off to a slow start that has a chance to maybe turn things around?
I like the Bills. I mean, they're 3-0, but I think the Bills have been the biggest surprise early in the season here. Obviously they got the Patriots coming into town, but we've talked about it for since I've been on the show about the Bills defense. 3-0, you made valid points about their schedule. If they can get to 6-7 wins early, mid-season, they're looking pretty good for a playoff spot. So going into the season, I would say the Bills might be my biggest surprise right now.
Yeah, for me, it's I think the Minnesota Vikings to me look to be one of the tougher teams out there. In the championship game 2 years ago with Case Keenum as the quarterback, last year the expectations were high with Kirk Cousins coming in. Very disappointing season for them. So far they have the 1 loss, but I think when you lose at Lambeau, for Packers opening day, that's really not an unforgivable loss. It's not like losing, to the Cardinals at home or something. It's, it's losing to the Packers at Lambeau on opening day, opening home game for Green Bay. So to me, the Vikings are the team that have the big upside right now, that I think are one of the teams. I think also the Baltimore Ravens kind of coming together a lot faster than I thought they would. I like the Ravens because they're just a no excuse type of team. They never, you still see, even though Ray Lewis and Ed Reed are gone, you still see that never give up on a play attitude from them. Earl Thomas coming in, he just fits the mold. They just have this thing, through their entire organization. I've always felt that the Ravens have drafted well because they always draft a lot of guys I heard of, and it's like you draft guys you heard of. Obviously, you heard of these guys for a reason. And, they end up sticking in the roster. And these are the motor guys. These are the guys that get it done. I mean, Earl Thomas, he'd rather die than lose, and it's like, that's the guy I want on my team. Yeah, he wants the money, and you might hear him talk about the money, but I'll tell you what.
He backs it up.
You're going to war, he's a guy you want on your team. So, the Ravens, the Vikings, I think, are the teams with the upside. I think the Texans have some good upside. I think, as far as the public goes, I was down on the Eagles before the season started. I'm still down on the Eagles and even more down on them after that game against the Lions. The Cardinals are a team that, I believe they'll be drafting right up there with the Dolphins when all is said and done. The teams like the Cardinals, the Dolphins, the Jets, we're going to see what these teams are made of around week 13. We'll find out. It seems that the teams that are kind of hit the bottom and bounce back up, they seem to grab a couple wins late in the season.
I think you can throw the Redskins in with that bunch you just mentioned about the Jets and the Dolphins and the dregs of the NFL right now. I think the Redskins are in big trouble, man.
Speaking about Redskins and dregs, Haskins not being really on the field yet, not being contributing. Well, we're starting to see Daniel Jones come into games. Of course, Kyler Murray starting right out of the gate. At what point, if any, do we see Haskins, and do you just say, you know what, this season's a loss, and we're going to Steve McNair this guy and stick him on the bench and let him learn the system, and we'll have, when we're ready to compete, we're going to have a healthy quarterback all in one piece? Because we know in today's NFL, where you're not allowed to cover wide receivers anymore, it's man coverage with Everybody else rushes the passer. So, this is why quarterbacks are hurt these days. There's really no dispute, that quarterbacks are hurt more today than they ever have been in the past because of the passing rules. And because defensive backs aren't allowed to cover receivers anymore. So what they do is they get these guys that are about my height and run twice as fast as I do. They run like 4.34.
As fast as you.
Maybe 3 times as fast as I am. 4.340s. They call them cover corners, right? Yep. And they cover man coverage. They got guys that can cover man. They cover safeties that run 4.5, 4.6 40s, right? They can hit also, but they cover the tight ends and running backs. Everybody else rushes the quarterback, and then they wonder why quarterbacks are getting hurt. Anyways, a lot of this stuff that we'll talk about as we go on, but let's get rolling with the picks. That's why people are here. Of course, so be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and be sure to hit the like button. Hopefully you guys got the notifications and are ready to roll with us as Steve Monin and I preview every game in Week 4 of the NFL season. Let's get rolling right here, though, with we'll get rolling right here. I have the games on the board this week. I got my crap together. We're going to start it off on Thursday night as the Packers host the Eagles on Thursday Night Football. Pretty good matchup for Thursday night. Thursday night games, it's not like the Sunday night game where there's a flex later on. These games are set before the season, so some of them could be duds like Monday nights, and some of them could be really good. Eagles, backs to the wall. Alshon Jeffrey has been practicing. He is going to go in this one against the Pack, who have not lost. And boy, you want to talk about a schedule. They open on the road on a Thursday night, and I think they have one road game the whole rest of the first half of the season, which means they're going to be on the road a lot late in the season. So they got to win now. Yeah.
Listen, the Eagles, like to your point, they do have their backs against the wall. The Lions coming in, of all teams, into Philadelphia and taking them down. What was it, 27-24. Eagles really haven't been playing good football, but they're talented. We all know that. Wentz is still healthy. I still think he's an injury waiting to happen. The Pack, obviously, off to a good start. I'm going to say I like the Pack at home, being home on a Thursday night. I'm going to go with the Pack here. Rodgers has been playing well. Even Matt LaFleur, the new head coach, they're off to a good start. The Eagles have a tall task going on a Thursday night. A short week for them.
I think the Eagles have a tall task getting to 500 this season. I think that they're just playing horribly. They've lost a lot of their talent that they had that they won the Super Bowl with. I think that Carson Wentz is way overrated and has been since the day he's been drafted. I said it on draft day when he was drafted that they paid up way too high for this guy, and I still believe that to be the case. And I'll tell you, the only thing worse than Carson Wentz's play has been the play calling of Doug Peterson and his offensive staff has been hideous. I mean, hideous. I love the guys that roll the dice. I hate the guys that play for the field goal, call the timeouts. You guys have heard me say this stuff forever. But one thing I hate even worse is really horrific play calling. You got 1:34 left on the clock. It's 4th and 7. There's nothing wrong with hitting the tight end on an 8-yard curl. There is nothing wrong with it. There is no reason to throw a ball into the end zone 35 yards down the field. There is no reason for it. There's no reason not to hit Darren Sproles.
His name is Zach Ertz.
I mean, you have Ertz. You've got running backs that can catch the ball. You got, obviously you have wide receiver Nelson Aguilar who can't catch the ball, but you have other guys, who can catch the ball. It's like, why in the hell are you doing that? It's the Detroit Lions. They're going to give you the game. All you got to do is keep the defense on the field. They're going to give it to you. So you throw in it. It's like, what are you hoping for? The pass interference call? I don't understand it. I'll tell you what, I'm taking the Packers in this one because you give Aaron Rodgers a couple chances like that. You give him too many chances. Not only does he win, this game gets ugly. The only thing, I think that this game gets really ugly. I think the Packers put up a big number in the first half like they have been doing in most of their games this season. And I think that, the only thing that scares me about the Packers is that in the second half this year of games, they haven't been able to sustain the momentum, kind of like the Bears, who we pounded the Redskins in the second half on Monday night on my live show. We cashed in gigantic on that. But So we both have the Pack in this game. Let's move to our next game. We go to Baltimore where the Ravens, Lamar Jackson and company, take on the disappointing Cleveland Browns. The Browns 1-2 entering this one. The Ravens 2-1, the loss to Kansas City. But like you say, go to Arrowhead. There are certain games, NFL teams, only 2 have ever run the table in the modern NFL. So a loss on the road like at Arrowhead Stadium or something, if you're going to lose one, that's a spot where you could say, you know what?
That's nothing to sneeze about.
It's nothing to sneeze about because you get it. You get the experience. You get the experience. That if you have to go back to Arrowhead in the postseason, you've been there. You know what it's like, and also, aside from that, you learn something from it. And who knows? You're going to get some in your building against some of the tougher teams that your building's going to help. And of course, Baltimore not the worst crowd in the NFL. That's for damn sure. So. Baker Mayfield, I bashed him last week on the show, him and Teddy Bridgewater, who put on a show for me. He must have watched the show.
I'm a Teddy fan. Hello, I'm a Teddy fan.
I think sometimes they take my comments, these NFL players, and just put them on a loop, inside their locker, and just to get them motivated. But I'll tell you, I've been a Lamar Jackson fan for a while. I love the way the Ravens play, and I'll tell you, you get a safety like Earl Thomas, and you get some of these other guys on the Ravens who are aggressive defensively against a quarterback that holds on to the ball way too long. You got big problems. I could see the Browns springing for some big plays in this one. I could see it happening because the Ravens are dice rollers on defense. I can see Odell Beckham beating them long on a play. But I'll tell you one thing. I could see a lot of pain on Baker Mayfield in this one. I don't know if he finishes this game. 7 points is a ton, but when you have a quarterback that holds on to the ball as long as Baker Mayfield does, anything's possible. It's not a best bet, and I might change my mind on Sunday, but right now I'm on the Ravens. Steve, what are you thinking?
Well, this is, of course, the Art Modell Bowl, right? Browns, Ravens. To your point, Baker Mayfield has been a major disappointment so far through 3 weeks. Freddie Kitchens is starting to question his play calling. That 4th and 9 draw call last week, oh my goodness. The Browns just haven't been able to really break out yet. Now they're going to go to Baltimore. We all know Lamar Jackson's playing well. Always been a big John Harbaugh fan. To your point, the Earl Thomases, all that, we've talked about it. The Ravens have been rebuilding quietly over the last 3 years, right? Ever since Ozzie Newsome passed the torch. They draft well. They get character guys. 7 points is a lot. But until the Browns can get out of their way, I like Baltimore at home.
Yep.
At least by, the 7 points here.
Go to our next game. We go to Houston Energy Stadium where the Texans take on the Panthers. I know Steve, he doesn't like the Panthers too much. Last week, as a matter of fact, he hated the Panthers so much he took the Arizona Cardinals to beat them. And I mean, those are words you never see come out of my mouth. That's for damn sure.
I gave Kingsbury and Kyler a chance. It's still early. I am sold. They stink. And never again am I putting stock in them.
Well, I think we have a real interesting game here with the Panthers and the Texans. Steve, what's your take here with Deshaun Watson and company?
I like the Texans at home. Listen, Kyle Allen throwing 4 touchdown passes. McCaffrey doing what he normally does. Shame on me for putting, taking a little Powerball ticket on the Cardinals last week. However, the Texans.
Another team you picked against last week.
I did.
You took Phillip Rivers over the Texans.
I did. And I'm gonna go with the Texans. Watson to Hopkins, the Carlos Hyde edition I've talked about. I think solidifies a running game. They're home. The Panthers, I just don't see them doing that back-to-back in 2 weeks in a row. Kyle Allen Listen, the guy looked great last week. I mean, he looked like an all-pro quarterback. Quiet kid from Texas A&M under the radar. They're going to key on McCaffrey. So from a defensive standpoint, the Texans, let's see if Kyle Allen can throw 4 touchdowns again. I think not. I like the Texans at home here.
I'm a huge Kyle Allen fan, and I always have been, and I was never shy about it. Matter of fact, the Texas A&M, when they had the glut of quarterbacks there, including Kyler Murray, the eventual Heisman winner at Oklahoma, he was at Texas A&M. I always wanted Kyle Allen to transfer to Miami. I kind of would say that on every podcast, every show I was on. I loved Kyle Allen. He's one of those guys that, out of high school, he was the guy that everybody wanted. So it's not such a huge surprise that he was an NFL talent coming out of high school, not necessarily fitting the A&M offense. And I think that was the problem. Kevin Sumlin's offense at Texas A&M, it was not really conducive as much to Allen's style of play as
he just follow Johnny Manziel too.
Yeah, Manziel, more like a Kyler Murray, more like guys that can move around.
He got lost in the shuffle a little bit.
Well, the thing is that he recruits really fast wide receivers, and that plays like that take a little bit more time to develop and get guys downfield. So if you have a guy that can swing out of the pocket and then throw it 70 yards, it really helps. Of course, there's not those guys. You can't grow them on trees, but some guys seem to be able to recruit them like no one's business. But anyways, I took the Panthers last week. I took the Texans last week. These are both teams that I rode last week, and both of them were dogs that won outright in their games on the road. And I'm going to go with the Panthers again in this one. I think that this is another one of those games. This is where you have Luke Kuechly, you got J.J. Watt. This is a defensive game. And you have quarterbacks that can make plays. You have players that can make plays. But it's going to come down to 3 or 4 plays. This whole game is going to come down to that. I love Hopkins, one of my favorite wide receivers in the NFL, because he makes no excuses. He just catches the football. He doesn't care if it's 10 feet over his head or if whoever's throwing it or if it's Brock Osweiler throwing it. He's got no excuses. He goes out and he sells himself out on every single play and extends. He's Julio Jones, right? Hopkins, Julio Jones, these are the two guys that do that. But I think the issue here is that we have probably a lower scoring game, and it probably comes down to a field goal. And I think we have a 2 to 3 point game, so getting the 4.5 points with the Panthers just seems to be a little too juicy of a number for me. This is where I live. Everybody knows that. It's that for me, it's not about winning and losing the game. I'm the guy that picks the dogs that cover the points even when they don't win. And I think we have one here with the Panthers, and I'm going to take the Panthers in this game. I know this is a game that we'll probably have to look at when we on Sunday.
Subject to changing my mind by Sunday at 11 o'clock.
Yeah, I could be. It's a tough game. Speaking of a tough one, we head to Miami, where it's going to be hotter than the face of the sun, I can tell you that much, in late September. We got the Dolphins plus 16 at home against the Chargers for a 1 o'clock start, which, like I said, I grew up in Miami. It's one of those days where you step on the driveway and your foot makes a footprint in the asphalt. I think that this is going to be that type of day, and I just don't know with the Chargers if they're going to be wearing the dark blue or the powder blue. I'm going to guess the Dolphins are going to put them in the dark blue for the 1 o'clock start. And, I'm not sure if the Dolphins get into the win column in this one, but I think that they cover the spread. I know Steve took the Dolphins last week. I took the Cowboys. It was in what you call bizarro world, right? But I think in this one, I do like the Dolphins. I do like the 2 touchdowns. I think the Chargers probably win this game. I think they're probably covering a good portion of this game. And I think the Dolphins come back and cover in the end, because that is who the Chargers are. They win games. It never looks pretty. It's never by as much as they should win. You never see the Chargers like with the Patriots scores of 58-0, right? You never see that. You see 16-12 in a game they should have won by 40. And I think that's what we have here, is a game like that. We saw the Dolphins play with a little bit of pride last week in Dallas. The first half, it was nip and tuck against the Cowboys. Of course, like I said on last week's show, Josh Rosen has experience at getting the number 1 overall pick. He's your guy. If you want the number 1 overall pick, you got Josh Rosen. Been there, done that. And I'm gonna take the Dolphins plus the 16. I don't care if Josh Rosen's starting.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Dolphins. 16 points is a lot. I went out on a limb last week thinking that they would show up against the Cowboys. Obviously, I thought the Cowboys would win. Josh Rosen, is he the most terrible quarterback I think I've ever seen? I don't think so. I think there's a lot of just lack of talent in Miami. I just think the dissension is really with the new coach and everybody kind of wanting out, trading Micah Fitzpatrick, but they're home. I learned my lesson last week with the Chargers. I wholly agree with you. They're not a team that just goes out and pays people. they struggle in games they should win by 20 points. So I can't, in good faith here, say that Rivers is going to go to Miami, traveling across the country.
The second down holding call was invented by the Chargers offense. It was invented by the Chargers offense. That second and 3, second and 4 holding call on on the perfect completion down the middle for 12 yards. That call, that is the Chargers. That is the Chargers. Whether they're in LA, whether they're in San Diego, whether they're, I think they play at Denver 6 times a year. It's like growing up on the East Coast, it seemed like the Chargers played Denver 6 times a year, and it was always in Denver. It's like, right? But
3 times snowing.
Yeah, it's like how in the hell does Denver always play the Chargers, and it's always in Denver? But it's like, that's what it was like back in the day before cable television, was around, and you just kind of, you had the blackout games and all that other stuff. So you never really got to see a lot of the other teams in full action. But in this one, I'm going to take the Dolphins plus the 16.
I'm going Dolphins, Mitch.
Okay, we're going to move on to one of the better games. 2 undefeated teams going at it, push coming to shove. The rubber meeting the road in Orchard Park, where the Buffalo Bills plus 7 against the Patriots. By the way, if this is your first time joining us, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Be sure to hit the like button, all that kind of good stuff. We got all kinds of other good things going on with our Facebook group. So be sure to check it all out. And by all means. But anyway, Steve, let's get to this one between the Bills and the Patriots from Orchard Park. What do you like?
Well, early in the show, I said the Bills are one of my major surprises of the early NFL season. However, the defending Super Bowl champions don't look like they've missed a beat. They're going to Orchard Park. The Bills are 3-0. I think the Bills are ready to lose a game against the Patriots. I'm going to take the Patriots here and I'm not going to predict the Patriots going 16-0, but I think the Patriots are a better team right now than the Bills. Although the Bills defense, I've been highly touting them. I just think the Patriots are a better team. Bills are due to lose 1 early on here. And until the Patriots trip up, I'm going to stick with them. What do you think?
I got to go with the Bills and the points at least. I think this is a game that the Bills probably lead most of the way. And it's going to come down to whether they can hold on for the win or not hold on for the win. I've watched a ton of NFL. I know Steve has watched a ton of NFL too, and we've watched a ton of NFL together. And we've talked, probably more NFL than there's been actual NFL games and plays over the last 35 years plus. But I'll tell you, in this one, I just think that this is one of those games where it's super high on emotion in Buffalo. Back-to-back home games for the Bills, so they're home, they're comfortable. Meanwhile, the Patriots going on the road, not necessarily where they've always been at their best. We've seen them lose historically in places like Miami, struggle in places like on the road against the Jets. This is a divisional game, and the way I describe it in college football and in the NFL is the exact same way. That the way that you build your team is to play against the teams in your division, because these are the teams that you see at least twice a year each. So that's 6 games on your schedule every single year. And the Bills are built to play in this division. The Bills are built to beat the Patriots. That is their sole goal. And if they are ever going to do it, if it's not now, then it's then they're playing for next year, because this is it.
Proven otherwise, I'm taking the Patriots.
Well, that's fine. I'm getting a touchdown at home here with the Bills. So that's basically, when you look at it, the home team automatically gets 3 points in betting, and the Patriots then would be a 4-point favorite here. I just like the odds, and I just think that the Bills, I think they have a chance to win this game. I'm not saying they hold on to the bitter end and get the outright win. I think they have a chance to do that, but I do think it's going to come down to the end, and I think it's going to come down to a late either miracle play or a drive that comes up short by Tom Brady. There's not going to be a bad call against the Patriots in this game. That's not what it's going to come down to.
Hasn't been a bad call against the Patriots in 30 years. What would make it think it's going to happen?
I think that this, if the Patriots win, I think it's that number, which is 4 points. I think it's 3 to 4 points. I think the Patriots have had trouble with the kicking game this season, and I think even those missed extra points, the missed field goals, that keeps this game a little tighter than it needs to be. The Bills have a huge edge at kicker. I mean, it's not even close. Gostkowski can't even hit extra points anymore. Meanwhile, the Bills have, the guy who wanted $100 zillion, from Seattle, and they gave him the money, and because he is that good. He doesn't get the ink that Zerline gets, these days. He's still a guy that he's going to be like Martin Anderson. He's going to look like somebody's grandfather, by the time he retires, with Adam
Vinatieri, who can't kick it anymore.
Right, and it's kind of like these, but Vinatieri, he's been there, he's done that. He doesn't know what's it. He doesn't know what's anything.
Him. I just think Father Time.
I just think this game is at least closer than 7 points, or the Bills win outright.
I'm going to reserve a right to change my opinion Sunday morning. I got 2 games so far that I'll wait and see on this.
All right, we'll move right along. This was. I knew we would get into some spirited talk. Let's go to Atlanta, where the Falcons feast at home, famine on the road, up against the Titans, who have that extra week off, or not week off, but extra few days off after that physical beatdown. I think Marcus Mariota, he woke up in the middle of the night saying, somebody block Campbell. Somebody block Calais Campbell. Calais Campbell, always one of my favorite players, a Cane, of course, and he's a guy that, I think he's the only Hurricane player ever recruited out of the state of Colorado. Butch Davis found him, of course, as a tight end in Colorado that nobody else recruited. Said this guy would make a good defensive end, switching defensive end, and I'll tell you, he's a Hall of Famer, right? I mean, I thought 2 years ago when the Jags made the championship game against the Patriots, I thought Calais Campbell was the MVP of the NFL, and I think that he is that type of player. But meanwhile, not in this one. It's the Titans against the Falcons. Derrick Henry going to try and slow the ball down. What Falcons team shows up? We got 2 1-2 teams here that we're thinking playoffs.
That's the question. Which Falcon team shows up? They're super talented, right? Julio Jones, Matt Ryan in the Dome, Dan Quinn, your defensive-minded coach. I'm going to go with the Falcons. They lost a tough one against the Colts last week. Titans, I'm not sold on the Titans. I'm a big Derrick Henry fan. Never really been a Mariota fan. I'm a big Matt Vrabel head coach guy, but I think he still needs to turn that roster over maybe another year or so and get the type of players that he wants. So the Falcons are home in the Dome. They have to win this game. They're talented. We've talked about it. I'm going to go with the Falcons over the Titans.
This is a tough game for me. I got to say, this is one of the tougher games on the board because if it goes either way, I'm not surprised. And this is one I might go back. I might go forth. I might go back. I go forth. I mean, I remember the Titans, and they went to playoffs last season.
Hey, was there a movie called Remember the Titans?
Right? That might have happened, and we're going to blitz on every play. They cross the line, I'm going to bench every one of you. Nice. Something like that. But yes. I tell you, I kind of like the Falcons here, but I also like the Titans. I think this is another one of those games that could come down to very, very late. I think the Falcons are another team that shoots themselves in the foot very, very often. When you get into physical games with the Falcons, they always seem to fold. And I
think we got some Dirty Bird fans out here.
Yeah, there's a lot of people on Dirty Birds, but Matt Ryan needs to be himself again. David Stanton.
Matt Ryan makes an awful lot of money.
It's tough to go against the Falcons at home, but every week we have at least one NFL game that doesn't figure, and I think that this one sets up to be that game. Where it could be the Titans. I don't care. You guys know where I'm going with this one. Falcons, Titans.
I'm going Falcons.
Nope, you're going against the lucky penny who has taken the Titans.
Yeah, huh?
I'll go with the coin. Everyone who watches my show knows penny. I have no problem going to the penny because the penny's money. Anyway, let's go to the next game here. We got another one that on the surface looks like easy pickings. I mean, you look at this game and all you say, Colts. And I did videos on all the games, and there's one video where I'm frozen. I'm going like this, and this is my rating system. You got Tom Brady and the guys like that up here, Peyton Manning's, Tom Brady's of the world. Then you have the next layer down with kind of like those good ones. But Jacoby Brissett is kind of like he was here, but he's kind of getting into that thing because he's playing extremely well.
I got to cut you off, Alex, with a great comment. Can I have the penny as my best man at my wedding?
It's
the penny travel well, dress up nice for
we've used
affairs like this.
We've used a couple pennies on these shows, so I have no problem giving out the pennies or whatever. We're going to something that people
we're talking Colts here, Colts Raiders, right?
Yeah, some people requested that I have shelves behind me. And so they can send in items, and everyone wants to send me different hats. They ask if I wear a Giants hat or Alabama hat or whatever. I'll do any of that stuff, of course. But I think what we should do is like every 6 weeks or take a penny that has the winning record and retire it, put it, get like a little plaque and put it on the shelf, or we'll have a wall of fame for the pennies, that have the big records. But Steve, what are you thinking here? Does John Gruden get the troops motivated, or is this a layup?
This is a layup. I think the Raiders are just going to implode for the rest of the season. I'm kind of anticipating a 3-13. Jacoby Brissett looked pretty damn good last week, I must say. I was very impressed with him. Looks like he has got command of that offense. Not only can he throw it, he's very athletic. As long as T.Y. Hilton is healthy. The offensive line on the Colts, they're right up there with the Cowboys' offensive line. Quentin Nelson was a great draft pick by them last year. Comes in, what is he? First team All-Pro, solidifying the line. The Colts are home. I'm all in on the Colts this week. All in on the Colts.
Yeah,
I just have confidence in the Raiders.
I like the Colts too. I'm a little nervous because it seems almost too easy. The Raiders, have been playing terrible. They were on the road, last week, back-to-back dome road games. Not good. And I think the Raiders have a lot of holes. I think the Raiders are a team that is doing it right. I think that some of these football teams are starting to take the lesson from the baseball teams. Unfortunately for them, the contracts aren't as long, so they can't cement the players down for as long. But a few years ago, baseball decided, and I think it's the Theo Epstein theory, where you kind of grow your own and bring them up. And even the Yankees have done it now. And you bring them up through the system. You take your lumps, and you get as many draft choices as you can, and then with those draft choices you build your team, and then you get to the top. Then you can't afford to pay your players, and you kind of build this system where you do it all over again. If you have a really good general manager like an Ozzie Newsome or something, then you can sustain competitive and be competitive. If you get a coach like a Bill Belichick, he's going to win with anybody. He's won with Jeff Hostetler. I say it all the time when they talk about Belichick. People say, "Oh, Brady." No. This guy won with Matt Castle.
I agree. And Belichick is a magic formula there between
Tom Brady's he just happened to be in the right place at the right time. It's tough to criticize him, because
it is. But if
executed.
Belichick, to your point, is one elsewhere
with other guys. He's
That's the tiebreaker.
Right.
For me.
He's won with Doug Flutie as his quarterback. He's won with Brissett as his quarterback. He's won with, Garoppolo. He's won with everybody, and it's like he's won with Phil Simms, and he won, give him preseason, he could win with, Brock Osweiler he got value for Ryan Mallett. That's how good this guy is. He got value.
That's a great point.
Yeah, that's how good he is. If you're a defensive coach and you can get value in a trade for Ryan Mallett, forget the Super Bowls.
We are not worthy.
You're the Hall of Fame.
We are not worthy.
It's unbelievable. I got to go with the Colts in this one, though. I think that I think what we have is a team that was a playoff team last season that has all the same pieces that they had last season, are a better team than they were last year. Adding through the draft, the guy from Ohio State, his name escapes me, but adding him to the mix just makes them even more potent. And Brissett, actually his mobility and his arm strength are really underrated. I mean, his arm strength especially, really, really underrated. Last week, I mean, wow. That's all you could say is, wow, this is a playoff team. This is a playoff team. Anyways, if you're watching us for the first time, please subscribe to our channel. Be sure to hit the thumbs up. Doesn't cost you anything. Helps us a ton. It's what keeps these shows free. Of course, we got the new website, PickDawgz, starting next week. I am really excited. This is my biggest and best project yet. I was just working out on the Nordic track, listening to Bachman Turner Overdrive. You ain't seen nothing yet. I'm telling you. PickDawgz, you ain't seen nothing yet, man. It's going to be my biggest and best thing I've ever done. And you guys know I've done some of the biggest and best things when it comes to sports betting on the internet. Change the business. Beat down the boiler room. And we don't have a boiler room to beat down anymore because that's already been done. But let's just say we got some competitors out there. I got my eye on them. We're going to take them down to Chinatown. Anyway, speaking about Chinatown, let's go to the game between the Giants and the Redskins. Out by you, Steve. What are they getting for an order of chicken nuggets at this Giant Stadium these days?
I think with a Coke, about $18. I think would and as long as you bring a $20 bill, you probably get $2 back on that. I mean, it costs a fortune to go to a Giant game. It's ridiculous here in North.
What type of dipping sauce would you get for the $18 nuggets? And is it pure breast meat, or is it just
left choices from your ranch to honey mustards, of course?
Is it a mechanically separated chicken, or is it like a nice, tender?
Well, if you want tender, you're going to pay $24. Okay, let's be real. Parking's only about $50 here in a Giant Stadium. It only takes about 2 hours to get in and out of the stadium, and another 2 hours to get out. But that being said, the Redskins are coming to town. I think the Jay Gruden era. I think he's going to be on a watch right now. Your point about Haskins not playing yet, so I got to say Case Keenum gets, kind of like the Eli Manning situation 2 weeks ago. I think Case Keenum probably has another week, especially if they lose. Daniel Jones coming off, one of the best rookie performances we've seen in recent memory. 2 rushing touchdowns, 2 passing. The athleticism that Daniel Jones showed in comparison to Eli Manning. Being down 25-10, bringing the team back. Don't get me wrong, the Bucs had a Scott Norwide opportunity to win the game wide right. I like the Giants, though. I think the Redskins right now are just can't get out of their own way. They're on the road. The Giants come with a little momentum. Daniel Jones is going to make his home debut. Is there a lot of pressure for him? Sure. But getting that game out on the road and winning and coming back home puts the air out of the balloon. I think the Giant faithful understand this is a rebuilding team still. But I think the momentum, and I think the Giant fans are going to be all in, and I like the Giants. Listen, Barkley's hurt. Don't get me wrong. That's a problem for the Giants. But I think the Skins are just not playing well, and I'll take momentum, and I'll take the Giants at home.
Skins are playing terrible. Short week, road game, everything working against them in this one. Divisional game, but the Giants are bad, and without Barkley, they're really bad. And Jones, I don't have a lot of faith in him either. When I did my video for this game, the news on Barkley wasn't out yet, so it was a little bit early on that one.
Wayne Gallman, ex-Clemson guy.
Gallman's quick. He's fast, but he's not Barkley. Not Barkley. I'm going to take the Redskins in this one in my 3 points. I think this is a Giants win. I think that this is a game where the points do factor. I'm going to take the Redskins plus the 3. I like the way that they finished out the game. They didn't quit. Case Keenum, they had a chance to actually cover that game. The way that things were rolling.
Yeah.
I think the Redskins cover here. I don't think they win the game, but I think this is one of those 2-point ugly games. So I'm going to take the Redskins. I'm not rushing to the window to bet this.
And in Case Keenum's defense, he is not the worst backup quarterback that's starting. Right, he is a serviceable backup.
I don't know what you're talking about. He's a lobber. I hate lobbers.
He's not Billy Joe Tolliver.
He's a poor decision maker. He makes bad decisions. He lobs the football. He does everything.
I've seen worse.
I don't like.
The point is, his era is over. They got to go to Haskins probably in another week or
Well,
two.
we're going to Pontiac. You got the Lions at home getting 6.5 points against the Chiefs. Matt Patricia got things going in the right direction here for the Lions. I'm telling you, I'm as shocked as anybody. But it's tough to ignore. Meanwhile, the Chiefs, this is a team that they seem to get up big and get a little bit complacent. Andy Reid, this is who he is. We've seen it from Andy Reid forever. Great coach. I like his, he always uses the Smurfs, kind of gets that done, quick guys, and then, he kind of does it all. It's just he's a Hall of Fame coach, is what he is. But he's on the road here. He's up against Detroit, and I'm going to guess the world of worlds is on the Chiefs.
Oh,
Steve,
yeah.
What are you thinking?
I'm thinking exactly what you're saying. Listen, Pat Mahomes is ridiculous, okay? He's playing at a level I don't even know if I've ever seen, and I'm talking Joe Montana to the greatest quarterbacks. We've talked about Brady. We're Belichick more than Brady as far as all time. I'm a Roger Staubach guy. To me, he's the greatest quarterback of all time, and that's just my own opinion.
It was the Alamo every Sunday.
Pat Mahomes is the numbers are ridiculous. I just think because they're in the dome, they're on the road, it's the Lions, you can't stop this offense, man. You just can't do it. And they're going to throw a lot of points up there. I'm going to go with the Chiefs here. They're unstoppable on an offensive side here. So they're going to score a lot of points.
Well, here's some words you don't hear out of my mouth too often. I'm going to take the Detroit Lions and the points. This is one of those games where I think the Lions have what it takes to be competitive in this game. I think what the issue here, of course, is going to be, can Matthew Stafford bring it home? Not something that he's been known to do throughout his career. I think the Lions cover in this game, but I think the Chiefs win. I think we've seen the Lions, coming into this game at 2-1 or 2-0-1, right? 2-0-1, the tie.
2-0.
The tie at Arizona. They're actually playing some pretty good football, and I think good enough. The Chiefs, with 76% of the public on the Chiefs, there is no way I could possibly take them. I think everybody knows me. I think that my audience would lose respect for me if I just said Chiefs in this one, laying the 6.5. And I think I got to take the Lions because only 24% of the public is on there. Yet the line has stuck right here at 6.5. And what that tells me is a lot of bets, meaning the public who bet small, is on one side, and the sharps who bet the big money
around the Lions
is on the other side with the Lions. I'll go with the big money. I'll chase the money on this one. I'll go with the Lions. I'll take my 6.5. I'm going to guess that this is one of those games that we're going to hear more and more talk. Chiefs, and the line goes to 5.5. This is going to be that game. And then all of a sudden, it's going to come down to it, and the Chiefs might win in a bloodbath, and the Lions could win outright. But this is probably a 3-4 point game. I'm telling you, every year in the NFL, it starts happening. I've been a handicapper my whole life, and on the internet, I've been handicapping for 12 years, and I know exactly how this plays out, same way it does in college, just like we saw last week with the Wyoming, Tulsa, the games like that, with TCU, SMU, where we see games like this. And all of a sudden, there's a week where the public just says, I have no idea what I'm doing when it comes to the NFL. And we saw that last week in the 4 o'clock games where a lot of the dogs either won outright or covered in games. Steelers at San Francisco, right? It was like too many points. The 7, it was too many. The Steelers had a better chance to win that game outright. They were covering the whole way. They were never even outside the number. I think we see more and more games like that this week. And this is, I'm telling you, as a handicapper, this is when I've got the most fans, the most follows, the most likes, the most people joining my Facebook group, the most subscribes is always around these weeks of the NFL when all of a sudden the public says, when the public says, I might know who's going to win the game, but Mitch knows a few things about covering point spreads, and I think this is where we cover it. And David Stanton.
Yeah.
David Stanton.
You actually convinced me. I'm going to switch my pick to the line.
I say this all the time, and David Stanton's quoting me here. Somebody knows something. I'm going with somebody. I say it all the time, and it's just one of those weird games. I believe this could be one of those games.
How about Bobby? So is it rigged, or is the NFL just pros at the same level talent?
I always say, I've always stuck on that it's rigged. It's just a matter of getting onto the right side. And I always believe that it's not rigged in the way that people think it's rigged. I always believe that the rigging always happens on that second down holding call, where it's 2nd and 4 around, like we saw in the Super Bowl, the Falcons and the Patriots. Of course, I had the Patriots in that game, so I'm not saying it worked against me or anything like that. I'm just saying this is where you see it. 2nd and 4 around the 35-yard line. Just generic play, right? Either a first down or close to a first down, like 3rd and inches it would have been, or a first down. They call the holding call, pushes them back, borderline field goal range or just out of field goal range. The next play turns into a passing down, blitz, sack, or strip sack, or something like that. We see it all the time, and this is when it happens. I picked the Dallas Cowboys to go to the Super Bowl this year, and if you've heard my explanation, you guys must know my opinion that they sat around the table and said, last year we put the number 4 TV market in the country, number 4 to number 6 TV market in the country in Boston, number 2 TV market in Los Angeles in the Super Bowl, and our ratings still weren't there. We got to do something. I got an idea. Dallas Cowboys, and that's why the Cowboys picked to go to this.
Hear me out.
Yes.
Cowboys.
Hear me out on this. America's team. Dallas Cowboys.
It's been 25 years, right? Since the Cowboys.
Look at the size of this stadium. They fill the place. Imagine what we do. Imagine what we're going to get for commercials with the Dallas Cowboys. We'll have the cheerleaders. We'll get Chesney to do halftime.
Somebody get Chesney on the phone. Get Chesney on the phone.
Exactly. I mean, that's
like Golick, right? Golick's a big fan of him, right?
Yeah, I mean,
but back to the game, I think you just convinced me. I think it's a valid argument.
Well, we'll see what I say on Sunday, but we'll see. Sunday. I think it'll be interesting.
I'm gonna go with the Lions right now.
I think it's interesting. I think this is one where it's interesting on Sunday. We'll take a look at where the line is and where the public is on this one. So this is one we'll revisit on Sunday's show. Be sure to join us every day at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm live, and on Sundays, Steve joins me for the live show for NFL. Of course, we do college football previews on Thursday and Friday. Similar to this, we just break the schedule in half. Last week, we did the whole schedule. Way too much. Rams -10 at home against the Buccaneers. Oh, it's a long, long trip for the
Bucs. Yeah.
For the Bucs and the Rams, coming off of that Sunday night game against the Browns, where I know they won and they covered. It was Steve's best bet of the week. It was one of my best bets as well. But it seemed like the Rams should have won by even more than what they won by.
I agree. I'm God. I mean, 10 points. That's a lot. You're right.
But the way the Bucs played last week, and now we're back to back for the Bucs.
You know my feelings on Jameis Winston. I think he's a dog and a half. I like Bruce Arians. I noticed that Byron Leftwich is now making all the play calls, offensive coordinator on the Bucs. Never had a problem with him. He's always been a Bruce Arians disciple. However, the Bucs on the road at the Rams, like you said, I think the Rams could have played better. I like the fact that they're home. It's a lot of points. I'm going to reserve judgment on this until Sunday. I'm leaning towards the Rams, even though it's a lot of points. Again, I'm not a Jameis Winston guy in the slightest.
I'm not a big Jared Goff fan. I know Steve is, but I'll tell you, I think that the Rams Thursday night the following week, but I still think they lay it on. I think that this was one where the pressure up the middle from Aaron Donald. This is when you see, the Aaron Donald, and this is why he makes the big money and all that stuff. Because pressure up the middle against a quarterback that makes bad decisions is never, ever good. And there's even Tom Brady. That's how you get to Tom Brady. If you can get pressure up the middle on him, that's when he struggles. And I believe that you get pressure like that on Jameis Winston. Remember how he forgot to pay for the crab legs when he was in college? He's gonna forget what color jersey he's wearing.
Let's get this straight. He didn't forget to pay for the crab.
Well, no. He's gonna forget
medication.
He's gonna forget what color jersey his team is wearing for this game. I think more than once. We go to Arizona. The Cardinals +5 here against Clappy and the Seahawks. Clappy's team coming off of a tough loss at home against, in hindsight, a very, very, very good Saints team that a lot of people picked to make it to the Super Bowl this year. But I think that, it doesn't take much to get me to go against the Arizona Cardinals. You get me a Seahawks team coming off of a bad home loss. This one could be really, really, really ugly. We don't see Pete Carroll's teams roll games into the 40s and 50s, but once in a while we do. This is one of those spots. I'm going to guess that the Seahawks have at least 2 touchdowns that don't come from the offense.
I am not buying Cardinal stock anymore. I went out on a limb last week. They looked awful. Awful. The Seahawks, Pete Carroll actually didn't really coach very well against the Saints. Even though it was 33-27, I thought he had some questionable calls going for it on 4th down. Wasn't one of Pete Carroll's better coaching jobs. Like I'll always tout, as long as I'm on the show, I'm a huge Russell Wilson fan. And Cardinals stink. They're going to probably have the 2nd overall pick. Kyler Murray is going to face a pretty stout defense with the Seahawks. They're dirty, ugly. They like to beat the crap out of people. I like the Seahawks all the way in this one. I don't care that it's in the desert.
If you're watching this live, I go live every day at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. All the questions on our regular live show come from our live audience, and hundreds of people watch the live show, so that means we give out a lot of free picks. So sure to subscribe to our channel.
Steve never changed your first call, LOL. On this one, I think you sold me on the Lions.
I think
it's exception to the rule.
I think there are games.
You made a good point about, the Lions.
There are games where you go back and forth on it. Not every game is going to be your best bet. And, when Steve's on Sunday, he might have a different opinion. That's why I have this guy. This is why I have this. Because, I watch as much football as anybody, and probably more than anybody. And, my dog, Sam, watches probably more football than anybody. But, between the two of us, it's like sometimes we can't figure it out. It's like
Sam's an X and O's guy. Right?
Let's just say the guys who make these lines are pretty good at it.
That's true.
Let's go to Soldier, where the Bears are taking on the Vikings. Mitch Trubisky finally got off the schneid. Looked good, but was it a bad Redskins team that he did it against? And he certainly didn't have it going in the second half, which is my big complaint.
He had a really solid first half.
The Vikings, great at home so far this season. Didn't get it done at Lambeau. Kind of got off to the bad start at Lambeau. Played well in the second half. Meanwhile, the Bears are a first-half team, not a second-half team. This is an interesting game. Steve, any thoughts?
Yeah, this is a very interesting game. To your point, the Vikings, I always like the Vikings more at home. The Bears, again, they played Monday night. They looked decent, like we said, in the first half. We talked about Trubisky. I'm a little bit more higher on him than you are. Khalil Mack is such a beast on the Bears defense. The Bears defense looks pretty good. Dalvin Cook for the Vikings, as long as he's healthy. I like the fact that the Vikings got a nice, solid running game. Kyle Rudolph in the passing game with Cousins on the road. This is Mike Zimmer, a defensive-minded head coach. I think I'm going to go with the Vikings here on the road. I bet so.
Yeah, I'm going to go with you on the Vikings, too. I'm not sold on the Bears, even though Eddie Pinero, the kicker, did go to my high school. So,
interesting. Kevin Bacon, 6 degrees of separation.
Yeah,
right
there
there
is. My high school, my public high school in Miami, has produced, I think, more NFL kickers than most schools. Of course, Fuad Revez, who also body slammed John Randall in the locker room as a kicker for the Vikings, also went to my high school. Of course, 3-time state wrestling champion. Randall didn't know what he was walking into in that one. But anyways, I'm going to take the Vikings too. I just think that they get a little bit more physical. I like the way they play in the second half of games. I think Pinero is a big edge at kicker, a big step up for what the Bears have seen in recent years, and he should definitely help out. The problem is he's a little gimpy right now. I'm not 100% sure what his health is, and I think in a divisional game, in a game that, it's a close one, I think that the kicker definitely could factor when it comes to the points. I'm going to take the Vikings. I might change my mind on Sunday. Right now, this one not looking like a best bet.
Bobby wants to know, dude, so you went to South Dade? What is the name of that high school you went to?
Miami Sunset.
Miami Sunset.
South Dade was close by. Miami Sunset. Broncos at home, -3 against the Jags.
Ugh.
Yeah.
The Broncos, my goodness. What can we say about them? They hire Vic Fangio as a defensive-minded guru, and they don't, as far as I know, they still don't have a sack and an interception and a turnover and so on and so forth. That's the staple of their defense. I think we talked about Joe Flacco. Looks like he is ready for the retirement home. He's had a great, solid career with the Ravens, Super Bowl champ, all that. The Jags, even with this Jalen Ramsey controversy, they got some firepower there. They're a good defensive team. Fournette, listen, has Fournette rushed for over 100 yards recently? I can't remember, but he's a solid running back. The kid Gardner Minshew really hasn't seen any deer in the headlights yet. I like the Miles Jack thing. I like the Jags defense, obviously, like I said. I'm going to go with the Jags on the road here. The Broncos, I don't know what the hell's going on with them. What do you think?
This is a tough one for me. The thing is, I like the Jags on the road here too, plus the 3 points. I have some issues though, because Denver is the place where bad calls do happen especially against bad teams. And the Jaguars, not a bad team, not a horrible team, but not a really good team. I think if Nick Foles would have been healthy, I think they were possibly a playoff team. Very tough division, quietly one of the toughest division out there. There's no slouches in that division. You got the Texans, the Colts, the Titans, and the Jags. That is about as tough as it gets. You got 4 teams that could legitimately beat anybody on any day.
Right.
I just think Joe Flacco looks shot to me. He doesn't look like
That's my point.
He doesn't really have what it has. I like Phillip Lindsay, but I don't think he's an elite running back, and I don't think he's the type of player that can carry this team on their back. And I think against that pass rush with Campbell, with leading the way, I think that Flacco's going to be in trouble in this game. I know the Broncos always a little chippy with their blocking, but I don't know if the chip is going to work against this pass rush. Jaguars is way, way too physical. I think this one could come down to the end too. I think this is going to be a close one. Like I said, we're in week 4. The odds makers are more dialed into the lines at this point, and we're going to see a lot of games right near or at the line. So if you're in a pool where ties lose or something like that, this is not a game you want in there, because I could see the Broncos winning by 3. I could see the Jaguars winning outright. I could see this one being a 1-2 point game. I could see this game going 10-6, Do
you see Jalen Ramsey calling in sick for Sunday?
I don't know if he calls in sick, but I don't know if he's going to play either.
Right?
They say he's not going to play.
Trade him. They have to, I think, right?
They say he's not going to play, so we'll see. I don't know. I'm going to lean the Jags.
Listen, do I like the guy's stance? No. But, I'm being objective. The guy is a super talented cornerback, though.
Absolutely.
He's going to command.
There's no question.
Tom Coughlin, no-nonsense guy. This is going to be a hard negotiation. I think it drags out for a couple more weeks.
There's no question, on his talent level. It's just a matter of, there's certain guys that just don't want to play in certain places, and it's always been like that. It's always been, and it always will be, that when you have a sport where it's not, unrestricted free agency from day one, you're going to have guys that are in places they don't want to be, and they just don't fit. It's not like college where you can just pick and choose where you want to go. Like Lou Holtz said when he was coach of the Jets, they said, Lou, why can't you win here in New York with the Jets? It's like, because I can't recruit. And that is the problem. And it's like, so you're going to end up with guys that don't want to be in their place. Of course, Tom Coughlin, his beefs with guys like this have gone all the way back from his first stint with the Jags with Natrone Means, who like to sit on his helmet in practice, and Tom Coughlin, not a sit on your helmet coach. So you have a lot.
Neither am
I. Speaking of which, let's head to the Big Easy where the Saints, Teddy Bridgewater plus 2.5 at home against the Cowboys. Cowboys were my pick to go to the Super Bowl. The Saints last week super impressive with Teddy Bridgewater in Seattle. I'm not so sure I was all that impressed with Bridgewater. I still love me some Taysom Hill, and I think that he should be the quarterback of this team. But Steve,
I think that he deserves the gig.
who do you like? Saints, Cowboys?
I like the Saints at home. I'm a Cowboy fan, but historically the Cowboys just don't play well down there in that atmosphere. Breeze being out of side, I got confidence in Bridgewater. I like the running game with Kamara, on and on. The Saints played well. They're coming off a good victory. I think the Cowboys getting off to their 3-0 start. I think they get a reality check. They're not going to go undefeated, let's be real. But historically, the Cowboys just don't play well in the Bayou. So I'm going to take the Saints at home.
Well, last year these two teams played, and the Saints were looking to be marching towards the playoffs at the time. And actually, Steve and I were at dinner when this game was being played. We were at Hell's Kitchen in Vegas having dinner. And, the Cowboys went into New Orleans last year and beat the Saints. And they beat them outright as a dog.
I don't think they're doing it back to back.
Yeah, I think the Saints have revenge in mind for that game because it was a close one. There was bad calls. It had everything that makes a team mad. The Saints are a team that, they weren't able to avenge the call against the Rams, but I look for them to avenge the game here against the Cowboys. I'm going to take the Saints. I'm going to take the 2.5 points. I don't think we're going to need it. I think they're going to win it. Let's go to our last game on the card, and this is why maybe the Monday night game, it would be nice if they could change them out, but they can't. We got the Steelers, -4, Mason Rudolph against the Bengals. As Michael Buffer likes to say, someone's O has got to go. 2 0-3 teams facing off in this one. And normally he says that with the undefeated fighters fighting each other. This is 2 winless. Steelers have been super competitive in their losses. Even that game against Seattle that they ended up losing. I even said that's going to be a 2-3 point game coming down the stretch. It can go one way or the other. It's exactly what happened. Then we saw the Steelers leading at San Francisco, getting a touchdown last week, holding on, for the cover for us, but not getting the win. Which, it's, as Al Davis said, just cover, baby. And, I count it as a win in my book, even though it wasn't a win for there. Meanwhile, the Bengals, which Bengals show up? I mean, Andy Dalton looks I think that the Bengals will rebuild, and my guess is on the rebuild, Andy Dalton's not going to be the quarterback on the way back up for this team.
No, he will not be. His time is up.
I think his time is up.
God, he's got it. Andy Dalton must be there at least 6-7 years by now, right?
Yeah, he's done a great job.
He's not going to be part of the rebuild. He's not the worst quarterback I've ever seen. He really, outside of an A.J. Green type, he really hasn't had a hell of a good supporting cast.
He had the receivers one year. He had Green, Sanu, and Marvin Jones, and that was his year. He still couldn't win a playoff game with that trio. But he did have those 3 guys, and that's about.
I think they lost to Houston down in Houston, if I remember correctly.
Right. I mean, he's never won a playoff game, and I think that's to me is the issue for Dalton. 4 points is a lot for a divisional rivalry game, but the Bengals rarely show up for the Steelers. I'm going to take the Steelers and lay the 4 points. This is one where I might go the other way. It really depends. This is one where I'll probably make my pick on Monday based on the money, and this will probably be my last NFL pick before the launching of the PickDawgz.com website, which I am really excited about. I am stoked. It's going to start off a little bit more basic than some of the things you've seen from me, but it has the whole reason it's going to be basic when we start is because I just want to get it out there and get it launched, and then we have all these other things that we're adding, but it's going to be a quick ad. It's not going to be like the last year has been where it just was slow and painful to do anything. It's going to be quick and well done and professionally done. Basically, things are done. I just want the site up and running, and then these things will be added. It's going to be, I'm talking about over the course of a couple of days and weeks, not 10 months later and still not working right. But anyways, I'm going to take the Steelers in this one. Only 58% of the public on the Steelers in this one.
I'm going Steelers.
Yeah, Steelers 1-2 against the number. The Bengals 2-1 against the number. This is a tough one. I think this is one. Monday comes around, I might have a different story to tell. We'll have to say. Of course, we could have an Indians Rays playoff game on Monday or something too going on. So who the hell knows? But
yeah, I mean the Bengals rebuild. Steelers home. they got to win. They got off to a terrible start. I think the terrible towels will be out in full force, and I like the Steelers.
Heinz is a tough place. But anyways, thanks to everyone that's joined us today. Be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Of course, I'm live every day at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. We're back tomorrow with part 1 of our college football show. Friday, we'll do part 2 of the college football show. Break the schedule in half. I mean, you see, we did 15 NFL games. It took us over an hour. So, last week we did all the college games. We go over the college games a lot quicker than these NFL games. But we both took the Packers -4. We both took the Ravens. I took the Panthers plus the points. Steve took the Texans in that one. We both took the Dolphins in the points. I took the Bills plus the touchdown. Steve on the Patriots. I kind of almost convinced them to go to the other side. It's one of those games where you kind of got to stick to your guns, I think. It could go either way, but I see the value there. The lucky penny took the Titans for me, getting 4 points. Steve took the Falcons in that one. We both liked the Colts against the Raiders in a game that, oh man, the line just looks so low. It's like if you're going to bet it, you have to bet it now because that one could go 7.5, 8. Redskins, I took the Redskins +3. I think the Redskins lose the game. I think they cover the spread. Probably a missed extra point or something. 2 field goals and a touchdown and that sort of thing. Maybe a missed 2-point conversion. I took the Lions +6.5. I talked Steve into the Lions. First he took the Chiefs, then he took the Lions. Who knows what he's going to say on Sunday. I'm going to take a look at where the money is on Sunday and make a final call on that one. We both like the Rams -10, but as Rashawn pointed out Tehran pointed out in the comments, a home favorite laying 7 or more prior to Thursday night, 0-10 against the number.
Oh.
So that
good
is
stat, Tehran. Like that stat.
That
Tehran.
is beautiful. That is the doghouse. This is why I always say it's never about me talking about my picks. It's never about anything like that. We are a true community here working together to win games. Because I didn't know that stat either, but that is a beauty.
Thanks, Tehran. Good stat, buddy.
We took the Seahawks -5.5. Both of us did against the Cardinals, and I will continue to bet against the Cardinals. I would lay 10 in that game if I have the possibility to do so.
I will now be betting against the Cardinals going forward. I learned my lesson last week the hard way.
We both took the Vikings -2.5. Neither of us could really even convince ourselves into loving that pick. Same thing with the Jags +3 at Denver. Another game where I could see the bad call going against the Jaguars, but maybe the 3 points we get lucky. It looks a little pushy to me, if anything. Both took the Saints +2.5 in a game where I'm going to guess, a lot of people, 65% of the public is on the Cowboys in that one. And Steelers -4, only 58% of the public on that. Anyways, thanks for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow with College Football Part 1, Friday College Football Part 2, and of course, every NFL Sunday, Steve joins me. We have a good time. All the questions on that show come from our live audience, just like they do every day at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is Mitch for PickDawgz. Steve, thanks again for joining us. I enjoyed it. I think the show gets better every time you're on. Have a great day, everyone.
Appreciate it.
See you later.
Yeah, everybody. Take care. Thanks for your time.